So to coat your screen, you're going to need a couple of supplies here. First going to start with the photo emulsion. So in the lab we have a couple of photo emulsions. We have the LX660 photo emulsion, which is a more professional grade and is a pink goopy substance. And then for you guys printing at home and exposing at home, I recommended the Speedball photo emulsion. It's a little bit cheaper and works just as well as the pink photo emulsion over here, but it's a little bit easier to work with at home at your at-home studios. So I also have my scoop coat that I'm going to be using. I picked a scoop coat that was a little bit larger than the size of my transparency, however was smaller than the size of my screen. You don't want to pick a scoop coat that is too large for your screen, because we want to make sure that our scoop coat rests upon the mesh of our screen while we're coating our screens. So make sure that you get one that is a little bit smaller than your screen. I have a rag here for spills and messes, and then I also have here a little pink squeegee slicey thingy to help scrape up the photo emulsion after I coat it and to help scrape up any spills. When you're coating your screens, you want to have the thinnest possible amount of photo emulsion on your screen. So after I coat my screen, I usually go over with this guy to make sure that I'm getting a really thin layer of photo emulsion on my screen. If the photo emulsion layer is too thick, a couple of things can happen. So it can peel off after you're done exposing it. It'll end up breaking down. So you really just want to have the thinnest possible layer on your screen. That way you can get the best exposure that you possibly can. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take the old LX660 here, and I'm going to be using this stuff for this demo. But again, the process is the same regardless of what photo emulsion that you're using. You're still going to do the same exact process. And I'm going to take this stuff and I'm going to fill up my scoop coat at about half to 75% full. When you're using photo emulsion, you can use gloves. It is a little bit sticky and tacky. It does come off with soap and water, but if you want to keep your hands clean and safe, you may use gloves. So if you can see here, it is this pink goopy liquid. The Speedball will be a green goopy liquid. And you should have it so it's like not too thick, not too runny. This is a good consistency. Sometimes if your photo emulsion gets a little too old, it'll get a little thicker. So you want to make sure that it is still, a little bit runny, so that way we can get a nice even coat. So I'm just going to pour a generous amount in my scoop coat here. It's all dripping. And then scrape up the other drippies with my squeegee. When you guys are working with this, either at home or in the lab, especially in the lab though, please clean up any spills that you make with the photo emulsion. Once this stuff dries, it is like impossible to get off of things. So please make sure that you guys clean up spills as they happen while the photo emulsion is still wet. So I've got my scoop coat here, and it's about, I guess, like half full. You want to make sure that you put at least enough photo emulsion in there. That way, when you go to pull your screen, you can get a nice even coat. However, you don't want to put too much photo emulsion in there, because then it'll get too goopy on your screen and it will coat on too thick. So this is about, I would say, I don't know, this is like half full-ish. So this is a good amount of photo emulsion for what I need. Since I'm only coating one screen, I don't need a whole bunch of photo emulsion, so this will suffice. On the scoop coat here, there are two different edges. There's this sharper edge right here, and then there is this dull edge on the other side. To coat, we're going to be using the sharper edge. That way, again, it can help create a nice even and thin layer of photo emulsion. So it's important that when you guys are coating your screens that you're using the sharper edge to coat them. On the floor here, in the lab, we have little ridges for you to rest your screen in to help support your screen while you're coating it. It helps so that when you're coating your screen that you have some sort of support, like these ridges here, or you can prop your screen up between like two books, two pieces of wood, two like sturdy objects to make sure that your screen is nice and secure while you're coating. You don't want your screen to be wobbling around and stuff, because then that's going to mess up your coat and then just give you a migraine. So I'm going to take my screen and I'm going to put it in these little ridges down here. I already have on this side of my screen an exposed image. It's important to note that when you're coating your screen, you don't have to coat the entire screen. You can coat just a small section if you're exposing more than one image, or if you're doing like one process on one side of your screen, another process on the other side of your screen. You can split up sort of the real estate of your screen, and then, you know, coat whatever side that you need to coat. So I already have this side exposed, like I said, so it's totally fine and good to go. This side is clean and degreased and is ready to coat. So I'm going to take my scoop coater and I'm going to press it up to the bottom edge of my screen. And the scoop coater, this is also important to note, is touching the mesh and not the metal frame. You want to make sure that when you start that you're touching the mesh of your screen and not the metal frame. I have pressed up my scoop coater so that way this blue edge is directly pressed up against the mesh of my screen. And if I look over my shoulder here, or excuse me, if I look over, I can see that all of the photo emulsion that was in my scoop coat is pressed up against my screen. So I'm going to take both of my hands here and I'm going to just press into my screen, like not too firmly because you don't want to tear any holes, but with some pressure, and I'm going to just pull up like that. When I get to the top, I'm letting all the photo emulsion fall back down into that dip there, and then I'm going to finish it off as so. So you can see here that there are some goopy parts at the bottom. So I'm going to take my little pink squeegee and I'm just going to scrape up those areas. Sometimes I go back through with just the edge of the scoop coat as well. Scoop up whatever excess. So after I'm done scraping my screen, I'm going to leave it in front of the fans to dry, and it's gonna take about 10 to 15 minutes to dry in front of blowing air, so you can put it in front of a fan. If you don't have a fan on hand, you can leave it in a dark room for about like an hour or so, and let it just air dry naturally. So to get photo emulsion out of your scoop coat, you're going to use some strippy-doo here, and I'm squirting a liberal amount into my scoop coat and on my putty squeegee. And then I'm going to be using a green scrubby brush here, green scrubby pad, and I'm going to go ahead and rinse out my scoop coat and my squeegee, and I'm going to scrub out both of those items until they're completely free of photo emulsion. It's important to clean your scoop coat and your squeegee as soon as possible while the emulsion is still wet. That way you don't have any trouble getting that stuff out of your scoop coat and your squeegee. So I'm going to go ahead and scrub both of these things until they're completely free of photo emulsion, and then I'll hang them back up to dry so I can either use later or somebody else can use them.